Coming up on tonight's South Today, a former RAF test pilot says a Chinook helicopter that crashed in 1994, killing 29 people, was a show flight to prove it was safe.
It was a prestige flight by the Air Force to show the Army that the Chinook was ready for service.
Well, the Ministry of Defence say it was a tragic accident, but families of the crash victims, including those from here in the south, are demanding a public inquiry. Hello to you, good evening, I'm Edward Salt. Welcome to the programme. A former RAF test pilot from Hampshire has claimed that a Chinook helicopter that crashed on the Mull of Kintyre in 1994, killing 29 people, was on a show flight to prove its safety. Retired Squadron Leader Robert Burke, who was based at RAF Aldergrove at the time of the crash, says the newly upgraded helicopter was chosen despite safety concerns being raised about its airworthiness. Families of the crash victims are continuing to press for a public inquiry into what happened. The Ministry of Defence says the crash was a tragic accident and the circumstances have already been thoroughly investigated. In a moment, we'll be hearing from the maker of a documentary about the crash. But first, here's Bryony Leyland.
It was one of the RAF's worst peacetime losses of life. All 29 people on board the Chinook, which crashed on the Mull of Kintyre in 1994, died. After the crash, the pilots were blamed, but following a long campaign, Flight Lieutenants Jonathan Tapper and Richard Cook were exonerated. The MOD says the crash was an accident, but families like those of Major Gary Sparks from Hampshire, who died in the crash, argue there needs to be a public inquiry. They want documents relating to the crash, which was sealed for 100 years, to be released.
I want openness and accountability. I want to know exactly what happened that night, and I want to know why.
This documentary sets out how the Chinook which crashed was a Mark II, newly upgraded from the Mark I. At the time, retired Squadron Leader Robert Burke from Hook in Hampshire was a test pilot at RAF Aldergrove.
My main job was flying aircraft after rebuilds, or when something was wrong with them which couldn't be analysed in the air by other pilots or on the ground, and we were doing the road testing for the Mark II Chinook.
Robert Burke says there were concerns that the Mark II wasn't ready for duty in Northern Ireland.
I had real concerns that the Mark II Chinook was not fully developed for service. I had fought against going to Northern Ireland, and so did the Chinook flight over there. John Tapper, he asked for a Mark I to be kept over there because of his worries about the Mark II, and particularly about this specific aircraft.
Robert Burke claims that the Chinook, which was carrying senior intelligence and security personnel, was ordered into the air as a show flight to prove that the upgrade was safe.
It was a prestige flight by the Air Force to show the Army that the Chinook was ready for service.
The Ministry of Defence told us,
"The Mull of Kintyre crash was a tragic accident, and our thoughts and sympathies remain with the families, friends and colleagues of all those who died. The accident has already been the subject of 6 inquiries and investigations, including an independent judge-led review."
Last week, the Prime Minister rejected calls for a public inquiry, saying it would not bring any greater certainty and would not be in the public interest. But families say they will fight on for answers. Bryony Leyland, BBC South Today.
Well, a little earlier, I spoke to Trevor Burney, the director of the television documentary, and began by asking why he felt it was important to tell this story.
Well, it felt still that there was unfinished business with the Chinook crash. I was a journalist on the night that the accident happened, and it always stuck with me. And it felt that there was still a lot of unanswered questions, a lot of people who hadn't talked about what had occurred and how it affected them. And we felt really passionate that this was a story that the BBC should do. And we convinced them to do it. And thank God that they supported us. And we're very proud of the documentary.
The MOD, Trevor, has told us today that the accident has already been the subject of 6 inquiries and investigations, including, they say, an independent judge-led review. Are you suggesting there's more to this story than meets the eye?
Well, I think that all you have to do is listen to the families, and the families have been very clear. They don't feel they've got the truth. And, you know, all those inquiries really looked at the pilots, and you know, the pilots' families campaigned for many years to overturn the slur that had been inflicted on them erroneously, and they did. They managed to do that, and I think now that the documentary has been something of a cathartic experience for all those families, where they have realised that there is still questions to be answered, and I think the MOD are quite clearly trying to frustrate these very determined and wonderful and amazing families in their search for truth.
Do you think your documentary will make any difference?
Well, I think that what our documentary says is journalism makes a difference. First of all, it was the journalism of many people, but particularly Alex Thompson at Channel 4, that helped overturn that slur on the 2 pilots who were blamed for the crash. I'm very proud of the fact that myself and Andrew Tully and the others at Fine Point Films, who helped make this film, has had something of a cathartic effect for the families, bringing them together, giving them focus, and we are 100% behind their campaign to have a full public inquiry. And I absolutely believe that is what's going to happen. And I'm very proud that it's journalism that's helped do that.
Trevor Burney, really interesting to talk to you this evening. Thanks so much indeed for your time.
Thank you.
And you can see that documentary, Chinook Zulu Delta 576, on BBC iPlayer.